Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
We're here.
We
Look,
made it.
chat's already starting to fill up with some people. Tweep and Barry. Hello, hello, hello. And Matthias. Hello. Um, we're here. We're here. Mora.
We made it. We're here.
I
I'm
rushed
just
in
adjusting
from
my
a,
camera.
a school event.
I rushed in from a work event.
Nice.
Zing!
We have full lives.
It's true. It's true.
um,
What
the
were you
uh,
up to at school?
they have this cool event that they started. This is the third year going. And I was there for the first one 2 years ago, which was they have a family culture night is what they call it,
Oh, neat.
and it's sort of like a share fair style. Do you know what a share fair is?
No, I've never heard of that.
I didn't know if that's like a term that my school uses, or sometimes I learn these things in that they call things in elementary school, and I think that that's just something that they say at my school, and then I learn that everybody does it, like the 1, 2, 3 eyes on me thing that we talked about. Like everybody knows about that. But no, share fair. So one of the things at my kids' school that they do, just in general, is because it's all inquiry based learning. So a lot of it is there's a community focus, community learning focus, and so what they'll do is when they're learning things, they often teach it to everybody else in the school. All the different grades
Okay.
come and
Mhm.
so they'll have a project and just the after they've complete a unit of study, it will often do this, and they have a gathering area that they use, and so they set up these. They start this in kindergarten. Just after you're done with a unit of study, you often create a poster or some sort of presentation. Each individual student does this,
Mhm.
and this is what I think is great. They start this in kindergarten. They're learning presentation skills starting in kindergarten.
Nice.
But they'll set it up in the gathering area, and then all the other classes will come out, and family members get invited too. And it's in the during the school day, and they'll just people go around and listen to the kids give a little talk. It's kind of like you ever been to a scientific or academic poster
Yeah. Okay.
presentation conference kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Or like a
That's
science fair, sort of sounds like.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of that kind of thing.
Okay.
You walk up to each
Nice.
person and they tell you what they learned about and what they studied and what they'd
Oh,
like to
I
teach
love
you about.
that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and so I'm actually gonna stop. Okay, good. We're live. All right.
You
I'm
gotta double
paranoid
check.
now that I don't press
Barry
the
said
go
hi.
live button. Okay, there we go.
Hi, Barry. Hi, Dweeb.
So that's what a share fair. They call it a share fair. So this whole event is like a share fair style event, but it was after school, and the whole idea was to share and teach people about your. It was just to share different family cultures and traditions and stuff. So when you hear family culture night, you might think that people come in and talk about, oh, we're from France, we're from Germany, our family's from South Korea, our family's from Greece, and
Sure,
certainly you
sure.
get a little bit of that. But the real focus of this event, which I love, is on the small things, and everyone is encouraged, no matter who you are, to just talk about just the family traditions or your family's culture, right?
That's really cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it started when my daughter was in first grade. Her teacher thought it was a cool idea just to share. They were talking about culture and what culture means in her first grade class, and that culture isn't just about your nationality or something like that, but
Mhm. Mhm.
culture is about anything. Every family has culture, and so they were talking about that in the class, and the whole class, the kids and the teacher all thought, wouldn't it be cool to learn about everybody's different family cultures, and so they proposed the the administration at the school that they do this event, and it was a big hit. So um, they invited anybody from the school. In fact, Kaylee and I went and we shared about how we make coffee cake at Christmas every year on Christmas Day. So that's
Nice.
all it was. Like it's just small things, right? Like a
Mhm.
tradition that
Mhm.
you have to share about your family. And I've seen things like how families like this other family, they have a tradition of making quilts in their family. So they came and and showed some of the quilts that they've made, and they even made a CFI family quilt where everybody they invited kids to come and draw a little picture on on a fabric square, and then they made it into a quilt
Nice.
later.
I love that.
They all kinds of things like that. So it was cool, and it's a really fun. It's become a really fun, popular event at the school, and I kind of like what it's turned into because you see all these people that we see every day, families. A lot of the teachers will come and do it too, and it's like our school, my kid's school has always been really focused on community. It's a small school of it's like kindergarten through 5th grade, and it's like 200 to 250 students, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty small, and it's just like they've always been focused on community and getting families and everybody involved. Everybody at the school knows each other, and it's just like kind of furthers that mission. I feel like it of building the school community by getting everybody together, and you just get to learn something new about who they are when they're not at school, you know.
Nice.
I don't know, it's kind of a cool event, and I get to learn all sorts of, because certainly there are things that families that do say like, oh, we're Greek. Like I learned all about Greek food today.
Nice. That's awesome.
But then there's also like one of the teachers, their family, they love to dance, and it's nothing special. Like they don't like do like ballet or jazz dance or anything. They just like dancing. So her presentation was, she just had pictures of her and her family just like at parties on this like poster that she set up, and she brought like a little speaker that she hooked up to her phone, and they just she just had people who were coming by like to look at things. She just got everybody to like line dance the whole time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it was just like a fun way to share what they like to do as a family, you know. So it's a cool event.
Well, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, so we always go. We don't, after the first year, we don't present anymore because I rather enjoy going around and talking to other people. But
nice.
It's fun. And Kaylee, it's supposed to be, the first year we did it, it was supposed to be Kaylee like teaching everybody about our family's tradition of, because she loves making, her and I make the coffee cake together every year, and it's an old family recipe of coffee cake, simple recipe, but it was like my great grandmother came up with the recipe and just passed it down. It's not like a special, it's special to us, but it's not like a unique secret family recipe. It's just coffee cake. Like, but Kaylee loves doing it every year. But anyway, it was like we were there for, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hour event. We were there for like 30 minutes, and then Kaylee left me alone with the coffee cake and went and played with her friends.
For a first grader.
She was a first grader, yeah.
Half an hour is about it.
It actually was longer than that. I remember being impressed that I think it was like an hour. I think it might have been the last half hour she left me, but so because I was impressed at how well she did. But anyway, yeah, that was it.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, welcome to everybody in chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw Tweeb and Barry. I see Apu and Logan and Natamaton. Hello. Ooh, Jackbox birthday party happening. That looks like fun.
Jackbox birthday party.
Have you played Jackbox?
I have played Jackbox games. Why is that so hard to say right now?
Yeah, it's weird. Jackbox.
Yeah, I have played Jackbox. We don't have it I think I do have it on Steam. We could play it just in the house, couldn't we?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I've only ever played it with people online, but I'm realizing now, like, why would
it's very fun live. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've never played it in person in the living room, so
it's pretty fun. I have it, but I think I have 5, and I've played it enough times that I'm like, I kind of want to do a different package of different games.
I think I have the second, not the most recent one, but the second to the last one.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's good stuff. I've had some good times playing that game.
It is fun. I actually had something I wanted to ask you about. Do you like Leftovers?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do? You
seem not everything.
Apprehensive?
Not every... I just find it... I know some people who don't eat leftovers. They don't like it. And I always find that strange, because if you have a good meal, why wouldn't you want to enjoy it again? Like, some things are hard.
It's never the same the second time, and sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse, but it's never the same. But I've got a follow-up question.
That's the thing.
I've got a follow-up question, but I have to tell my kids to go to bed.
Oh, okay. It was Kit London's birthday today. We were celebrating in Brian Dunaway's Discord. I don't know those folks, but happy birthday to Kit London. What level of Patreon is the Jackbox playtime? That'd be fun. That's a good idea. What do you think, Bobby?
Jackbox playtime for like us to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I'd be
could be
down.
fun. Why shouldn't we?
Yeah. Why not?
Maybe we can talk about that. Maybe maybe.
Perhaps someday. We're getting hearts in the chat.
Perhaps.
All right, you were gonna ask another question.
What's your
about
what do you
leftovers.
what do you what do you what do you like as leftovers? What are your favorite leftovers?
Okay. This is a hot take or possibly a cold take.
Depends
I
on how
love cold chicken.
Cold chicken?
Hmm.
That's gross.
I know a lot of people hate it, but I love it, and I don't know. It just has like a how do I explain it? It's just
It's
juicier
chicken.
somehow.
It's not juicier. What are you?
It
You're
is. It
crazy.
is. It's
You
got
are
like a. I love it. I love cold chicken.
What? Chicken cooked anyway?
Usually like roasted. Like
Oh, roasted
a chicken breast, probably not, but like on the bone, like a drumstick. My mouth is
Sure.
watering right now. I haven't had dinner. Yeah, a chicken drumstick. I love it.
Wow.
Fan of that. I do like cold pizza too.
Well, cold pizza is a go-to. In fact, that's
Yeah.
what made me think about leftovers, because this is what happened to me today for dinner. So we had some pizza. We went out when we were with Stephanie's family for Thanksgiving. Day after Thanksgiving, we went out and with my sister-in-law, Stephanie's sister, and her husband. We went out to get some dinner, just the four of us. And we went to a pizza place in the area, and a nice little like kind of local pizza place. And they had great pizza, and of course you get, when you go to these pizza places nowadays, especially, I say nowadays, I don't know, people have been doing this for a long time, but a lot of places that are these small like hole in the wall or like local places that are a little bit, that are more than just Pizza Hut or something. They make the pizzas like 10-inch or 12-inch pizzas that you can just order one for yourself, right?
Sure. Yep.
So we each got one, and of course there's leftovers. That's a lot of pizza.
Too much pizza.
Yeah. So we brought it back, and I really loved my pizza, and I was looking for it. Today because we had this school event, we had to do dinner quickly after school, and I knew I'd have to come back and then do this. So we had a leftovers night and I was like really excited about eating that pizza for leftovers. And so I go in and I can't find the pizza anywhere. And and I was like annoyed. And then I thought that Stephanie ate my pizza.
Oh no.
So I text her and I said, "Did you eat my leftover pizza? ? Exclamation point."
And Taro bangs. He's mad.
Yeah. Then I said something like eating somebody's leftover pizza is a cardinal sin. And then she texted me back a minute later, because she was at work. I didn't even expect her to respond. She texted me back and she said, "Did you bring it back? Did you bring it back from my parents' house? Because they live 2 hours away, right?" And I stopped and I was like, "Oh, I didn't."
So they get your leftover pizza.
So I texted her back and I said, I guess that makes sense why it's not here. So she didn't eat my pizza, and I felt bad for accusing her of eating my pizza, because of course she loves leftover pizza too, and of course she would never do that to me.
Well, that is a sign of a good marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Logan disagrees with our cold pizza situation and says that cold pizza isn't really pizza; it's just cold Italian cheese toast at that point.
What? Come on, Logan. Get out of here.
It matters.
Fresh pizza is
a
just
lot.
warm, hot Italian cheese toast then. Like, come on.
It matters how you rewarm things. Microwave,
but
not always gonna work.
Oh, Here's how you
rewarm.
I never rewarm it in the microwave. No.
That's the thing. You got to get a hot pan Put it on there. And then for pizza, I like to put like a thing on top, like it just cover it up so it gets a little bit more. It gets a little more moisture back in.
Yeah, yeah.
And not all pizza is good cold too. Some is better, some is not so good.
So the thing is, cold pizza is not. I think of it as a different thing. I think
Yeah.
it's. I like warm pizza and cold pizza equally. They're just different,
Yes.
right?
Agree.
For
I feel the
example,
same
I'm
about
not gonna
chicken.
eat. I'm not gonna eat. I'm not gonna eat a warm piece of pizza for breakfast, but a cold piece of pizza I can.
One thing that's hard to reheat is fries.
Yeah.
Those gotta go in the pan. And the other thing that never, ever, ever tastes good leftover is mac and cheese.
Oh, Stephanie loves it. I don't eat it.
I
It
can't eat it after
it
like
turns
the
all
first 10
congealed
minutes.
and
It's all gross and rubbery. Just no.
yeah. My go-to method for rewarming pizza and French fries, now that I'm thinking about it, is I put the pizza or the French fries on a pan, like a baking sheet, like you said.
Hmm.
I put it in a cold oven and I set the oven to preheat. And
Oh,
as soon as it
okay.
preheats, pull it out. It's done. It's good.
Oh, okay. Nice, nice.
It
That's a good method.
slowly warms it kind of through
Uh-huh.
because I feel like if you put it into an already preheated oven, it sometimes like heats it too
Overdoes it.
quickly.
Right, right.
And it kind of that way I found if you put it into a preheating oven, it sort of really evenly cooks it. So and
Well, I'll have to
reheats it.
try that method next
Yeah,
time I'm
give it a
rewarming
shot.
pizza.
Pro tip.
I like it.
Pro
Pro
tip
tip.
from a
An
guy.
expert pizza rewarmer.
I'm trying to make a
He's a
portmanteau
professional.
of pizza rewarmer, but it's not working. No, it's not working.
Yeah, that's an awkward one. Pizza warmer.
Yeah. So I saw Barry's here with some wine. I see your wine, Barry. Oh, is that a wine carafe?
A carafe.
Fancy.
Yes. Very
Fancy.
fancy. Yeah. Hope you're enjoying your wine as always, Barry.
Yeah.
How
What's something you will so you won't eat macaroni and cheese rewarmed
nah, I
leftover?
mean, I will if it's the only thing around, but I dislike it.
I'm generally not a fan of leftovers actually. There are just certain things that I will eat as leftovers, but most things I don't like.
Oh, you know what's really good reheated?
What?
Mashed potatoes in the pan.
Mm.
Yeah. Take your mashed potatoes and fry them, and
Oh,
they get like a nice little
that's what you
crust.
mean.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet you can make some good like potato cakes that way.
Yeah, you can. It's so good. I'm so hungry. Can we stop talking about food? I haven't eaten since lunch and the like 3 crackers I crammed into my mouth before this show. What's
That's
your
funny.
take on leftover wine?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't understand the concept, Logan.
yeah. Yeah, no kidding. All right, I'm gonna go settle the kids in. Feel free to chat with our chat room or just sit awkwardly with them. I'll be back either way.
Sit awkwardly. I'll opt for that. I'll opt for that. Um, Genevieve disagrees that cold pizza is gross. So thank you. I agree with you, Genevieve. Cold pizza is good. The wine expert has weighed in that a day or two is okay. So what's a Coravin? You need to use a Coravin to keep it fresh. I have never heard of a Coravin before. I'm not a wine drinker other than, casually. So would love to hear more. I have I have muscled through some very turned wine though when I not for any really good reason, just because maybe I thought I was being rude. Inserts inert gas. Oh, interesting. Like nitrogen to keep oxygen away from the wine. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm guessing it would be nitrogen and not like helium, because that's also an inert gas. That was the first thing I thought of. A noble gas. Argon. It inserts argon. That's so interesting. It's a needle that goes through cork, inserts argon, and pushes out through the wine. Huh. So you're like getting rid of all the oxygen. That's so interesting. Well, I was right about the noble gases, though, so that's good. You keep my science podcast without feeling embarrassed. So this is episode 223, and we are going that means in 10 weeks it is another Fibonacci episode 233. I feel like possibly celebrating based on Fibonacci has created a situation where people forget that we ever have these episodes. Because it's been more than a year since our last one, which was 144, our gross episode. So it's going to be interesting. Open to suggestions for what we can do. Argon does sound pretty noble, thanks to Automaton. That's funny. That's good. That's really funny. That's cool that it keeps up to a year. That is a lot longer than I thought it would be. Jackbox game Fibonacci episode. Oh, I like that. I'm going to check which Jackbox I have. I think it's 5. The gross episode was super fun. I really enjoyed the gross episode. It was good, a good theme. This was 233. It doesn't have quite the same ring to it. Well, I have 7. Jackbox Party Pack 7.
7, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's better than 5.
Let me see. Oh, you can buy 5 in one neat bundle.
They have this new one now where it like puts all the games into one interface, but I don't know if it's like you're buying all of the games or if it's just like some kind of weird container that you're buying that takes the previous ones that you already own and puts them into one interface or something.
Okay, to buy this 5-pack.
Yeah.
It's on like sale right now.
Yeah.
5 games, $107. Usually it's $195.
I mean, that's a good deal, but it's still a lot of money.
That's crazy.
107 Canadian. That's probably like $13 for us.
Yeah. Bobby just has that in his pocket right now. Look, it's a bad exchange rate, and I'm not happy about it. Okay,
it's
none of
funny
us
that
are.
You say that. Because I think I've told you I'm considering the family. We're considering visiting our friend Palmer and some other people that we know in the summertime up in Canada. And I was talking to him, and he was saying because we told him we were going to visit him, and he was like, the exchange rate is really good right now. You should figure out how much you're going to spend and just go ahead.
Yeah, just get your money now.
Just go ahead and exchange it.
Yeah, do it.
Mm.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's also hard because there's like a mental thing where you go to the States and it's like, this is $14. You're like, oh, okay, that's reasonable. But you have to add like 35% to everything you're buying.
Yeah.
So really, that's like $21. That's not right.
Now $19. I am curious, what does it really cost? Okay, so it's Jackbox. I'm going to look it up on Steam. Hold on. Because like you said,
is there going to be an increase? I don't know, Tweep. I probably. I don't.
What do you? What do we look like? Financiers?
Economics experts. I was thinking today about how most things. There's not a lot of things I find boring, but I don't. And economics can be interesting, but I'm never interested. I'm never like seeking it out. That's the one thing I'm just like, eh.
That's interesting.
I don't know why.
I actually subscribe to a couple of economics podcasts. Like I find it very interesting.
Nice. It is. It's not like it's not dull so much, but I don't know. I was just I happened on this website and was talking about like Scotiabank, blah blah blah, didn't spend enough money or whatever, and I'm like, I just don't care. Like, it's just, I just don't
Well,
care. I have I have no idea what it
what
actually
you're
was.
talking about is financial news. That is boring.
I guess
You're right.
financial news is maybe more of the thing. Economics itself is interesting, but
Yeah.
like,
What's the
yeah,
name of this
finance.
pack that is a 5-pack?
Quint something.
Quint.
I don't
Oh,
know. That's what it said.
you're not wrong. It's the
Quint pack.
the Quint
Yeah.
pack. Oh,
Yeah.
$67.21 on sale.
There you go. See, that feels more reasonable, but I'm used to spending $80 on one video game. Although Jackbox is a little cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anyway, done shopping.
Anyway, we should move away from
Steam
our
before we
live
start
shopping for
yeah.
video game content and move into our
Stop
science
looking at
content.
Steam and before we start talking about Dragon Age.
I know, we avoided it. We did it. I'm so proud of us.
All right. Do we have anything for the top of the show?
Doobie doobie doo. Do we have
I think there was
anything?
something I saw. Let me check real fast. This is, hey, you guys get to hear. This is what happens every show. We say, do you have something for the top of the show? I say, I think I might have something. I'll start looking. And then in the middle of me looking, Maura says, I've got something. And then
and then you're like, then you completely give up the search.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
Go with what you got.
I did have a thing.
Okay, well then I'm done looking.
No, I have to remember it. Keep looking.
Okay, I'll keep looking until.
No, I haven't finished it, Tweet. I'm halfway, I think. About halfway, as far as I can tell. Leftovers would have been a good top of the show one. But it's a good yeah, it's a good bonus one too. This is how the magic happens. Awkward long pauses where Maura sings to fill the void.
All right, I have something small that might inspire us to talk briefly about something.
Got it. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Got a message me when you finish it. I need to discuss it with someone. I know that feeling so well. I've never had a friend who played Dragon Age. Now I have so many.
Oh, I know. Let's. Can't. Maybe between segments or at the end, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, we'll see. Ready?
Ready.
Hey everyone, it's December 9th, 2024, and you're listening to All Around Science. My name's Maura Armstrong.
And I'm Bobby Frankenberger, and we are two huge fans of science, here to get you caught up on what's going on in the world of science and just generally geek out about science stuff. Maura, this week actually there were several little things in the world of science that I thought were
geeking out about.
Yeah. Aside from I think we've said this before. One of the toughest parts about making this weekly science podcast is figuring out the science news that we're going to talk about that's not rocket launch related. You know what I'm talking about.
You know, there's always gonna be a rocket launch, and there's always something about how much worse climate change is than we originally thought.
Yeah.
So we can just do that every week for you guys.
Really.
But we look a little more deeply.
But I did see something that relates to something that I talked about a little while ago about the bird flu that's going around, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You remember we talked a while back about how the bird flu was going through cattle in North America.
Right.
That was unusual. And they were trying to get a control over it, and it wasn't going super well. And that even a couple of times there had been zoonotic spread, which is the fancy science word for going from animals to humans. First of all, there was one in Canada. Did you know that?
Oh, what, Canada?
There is a bird flu, this new H5, I think, N1 or something like that.
You mean a human case?
Yes, a human case of bird flu.
Not cows, okay.
And it was a child, and they have no idea how. That it doesn't seem like this person has any contact with any cattle, farm animals, or bird, like chicken farms,
Right.
and doesn't have any contact. Seem to have any contact with people who do. So there don't seem to be any real like
How odd.
traces back to the sources where you would expect it to come from. So they're not sure how it happened. But it's the same strain of bird flu that's been going across the United States, and so that's concerning. And then
Is this strain uh is it the strain that is part of the vaccine?
no, I don't
Okay.
think that they're working on a vaccine and trying to build up stockpiles for it, but they don't vaccinate unless there's like a real reason to, right? Um, and what I mean by that is you if it looks like there's a risk of it starting to spread, like it's really, you know what I mean, like right now there's a small number of cases, so if they can just get a control over it in the normal ways, like quarantining the animals and getting people to
Right,
stop
right.
buying raw milk, which is the next thing I was going to talk about,
Oh
or
boy.
mention, then
The Now I do want to hear about raw milk, but the reason I was asking is because every year they sort of guess which strains will be the most common,
right,
and then they develop vaccines for that particular strain. And so I was curious to know if they had developed this one.
no,
But it sounds like they haven't. But do tell the raw milk.
yes. Let me finish screwing my microphone in so that it doesn't make noise on the microphone. All right, hold on. Future Bobby, please pay attention and edit out this stupid part of the podcast.
Also, Tweep says to keep your diseases over there.
Well, you got one. So, and I think it was in the western part near. I think it was in Alberta. Uh,
Hmm,
so that's
sounds about right.
anyway. Um, yeah. So the other thing is that apparently there is some in California there was raw milk that was recalled for containing bird flu. And
Raw
so
milk is legal in California? I thought
so
raw milk was
so
not allowed.
we have that federal state divide, you know, in our
Mm,
government where the federal government can be in control of certain things, and then other things are left up to state governments, and so certain states do allow the sale of raw milk, um, although they should not, in my opinion. No state should be allowing the sale of raw milk. It's dangerous. It's unpasteurized. That's why it's that they shouldn't be. Just for people who might be wondering why I'm against raw milk, it's not pasteurized. It hasn't been heated and treated to
hmm
kill the microbes and viruses and whatnot that are in it. Pasteurization is what makes milk safe. It's why people don't die as much nowadays.
Yeah, wasn't it like a major sanitation
Yeah.
victory, like public health victory to be able to start pasteurizing milk,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
broadly? Yeah.
Exactly. It's considered one of the greatest public health achievements
Mhm.
of all time.
Mhm.
Is
Because it was very
pasteurization.
bad before.
Yeah, I was reading about this, and apparently there was a whole category of illnesses called milk-borne diseases.
Oh
um,
my
yeah,
gosh.
that's how bad it was.
Wow.
It's
I just wouldn't drink milk if I had to. But I guess some people wouldn't have a choice,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
right?
some people you need to. I guess I don't know. I bet you could get away with it, but milk-borne infections. Yeah. There was
Yee.
tuberculosis was spread that way. All sorts
Oh,
of
I didn't
things.
know you could get
Yeah.
tuberculosis that
Oh, and
way.
there was
This feels like a whole feature.
yeah. The last thing I will say to leave everybody with a pleasant thought is that apparently there was an entire illness that people would get all the time. It was very common. That was just called summer diarrhea. uh, so the reason that you don't know about and you're hearing about summer diarrhea for the first time is thanks to pasteurization.
Oh, and it came from milk. You know what though? Actually, I have heard that term before.
Really? Oh my
Not
gosh.
not in the context that you're saying though.
Yeah,
Some
okay.
people just react badly to the heat.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
said that right as you drink a drink.
yeah. Yeah. If there's summer diarrhea is something I could live my entire life without ever having experienced. So I hope
You know what? It doesn't seem pleasant,
no,
so
it does
I'm
not.
glad you haven't had to experience it.
I would like to say welcome. I would like to give a nice summer diarrhea welcome to our live listeners tonight. We're doing our
Hello,
live
everyone.
show tonight.
Hello, everyone.
If you would also
Um,
like to come and listen live,
and I'd like to. This is the kind of content that you get when you come listen live, because Barry just said "Summer Diarrhea" is my speed metal cover band.
yeah, exactly. So if you want to come and
That's
join
what
us
you
in the
could
chat
be.
room, we try to do this at the beginning of every month. One show a month we do live for everybody on YouTube, and so come and join the Discord. Go to check us out on Discord. Go to the website allaroundscience.com. Get our website link, and we're on Facebook too, and you'll see the the invites to, or the links to the YouTube live show. Words are really hard for me right now for some reason.
Yeah, you're having trouble with that,
Yeah.
and I have bad news. We got a whole podcast to record.
All right. Well, let's just get on with it then, so that I don't have this stroke until after we're done.
Yes, that's right. Keep your blood vessels flowing for now. You can stroke out later.
All right. Why is
Better than a stripper name. Oh boy.
summer diarrhea?
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Oh, that's
Did Genevieve go to bed?
yeah.
What's a stripper? I did have to explain that the other day.
I
My 8-year-old.
had to explain it to my kids.
I think I
Because
told
we just talk about whatever the heck we want here at the house.
Yeah, no, there was no like pearl clutching or anything, but
Yeah.
but it was like, why would anyone want to do that?
To each their own is what I
To
think I
each
said.
their own.
Yeah.
To each
People
their
like
own.
what they like. People like doing what they like doing.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. Ah, okay. Yes. Seconded in the chat not to have a stroke, so
Yes.
keep your blood flowing.
All right. Oof.
You ready?
I'm gonna have to take this hoodie off. It's like in the 30s outside, which I know whatever. It's no like minus
Isn't that
10
cold?
where you are. I don't know, what would it be? For you it'd be
That's like freezing.
4, 3, or no.
That's what it was here today, actually.
It's it was like 30.
Insane weather.
It was 37 when we were coming up, so that's like minus 30 divided by 2, so that's like 3 degrees. Yeah, Celsius.
Yeah, that's what it was like here. We
Wow.
warmed up a little.
Well, we have a cold front coming through, so
We're sending it your way.
for a moment,
You gave us the flu. We're giving you some cold weather.
for a moment, we shared the same temperature. It was like
Yeah.
it was like cosmic connection,
Happens.
meteorologic
once a year.
connection. Hold on, I'm gonna take this off. All right.
All right.
I'm ready when you are. Or are you ready? Because I will do it.
Okay, I'm ready.
More misinformation online is breaking news. Misinformation is a big problem.
Bobby, I'm so glad you brought that up, because
Yeah.
today I wore my misinformation socks.
What misinformation? We're very, for those listening at home, Maura just lifted her leg over her head to show me her socks.
Yes, it is. It
That's very
says "Together Against Misinformation" on it. Here.
Oh,
It's it was a thing that we did at work. And my coworker presented about it, and she said she gave us this like website where you could go and you could create misinformation and spread it. Those are very blurry. Here, I'll take it off and show you guys. You go to this website. It's like a game where you try to make the worst misinformation and get the most followers on like social media.
Wow.
And so she held a little competition and the prize was these socks.
Oh, so the goal of the game is to spread misinformation, and that gets you followers.
Yes,
This
yes.
is apropos, okay, to
Yeah,
what I'm going to
yeah.
talk about. Absolutely,
I want to
because
hear. I want to hear what you what's going on.
yeah. So misinformation is a problem. We've talked about it plenty of times before.
Hmm.
Part of the problem, of course, is the creation of the misinformation in the first place, right? But a
Yes.
big part of the problem is how it gets spread around.
Mm.
It seems sometimes it seems to not matter when you're spreading stuff, sharing articles and stuff like that. It seems to not really matter how accurate it is or not. Misinformation just seems to get spread regardless, right?
Hmm.
I was reading an article on on uh, Ars Technica, and the title of the article was "People Will Share Misinformation That Sparks Moral Outrage." If you want to read the article, and there was an example in there that I thought was really poignant. It started with a quote that said, the quote was, quote, "It is more competent not to wait, but to hit launchers in Russia in case Russia attacks us. We must strike first." So that was the
Oh boy.
quote. It
Okay.
was a 2024 quote from Rob Bauer, chair of a NATO military committee, and it seemed to suggest that NATO should make. It sounds like that we should be making NATO should be making preemptive strikes against Russian missile sites, right? Um,
That is exactly what it sounds like.
yeah, yeah. So it was a post on X or Twitter, and it was viewed 250,000 times. It was retweeted by Alex Jones and made a massively spread around more after that. The problem is, uh, Rob Bauer never said that. It was completely made up.
Hmm.
All right.
Hmm. Okay.
And it got spread around. The question is that why do these completely fake things sometimes? Sometimes they're not completely fake. Sometimes they're just partly fake or exaggerated or whatever. But things that are not true, why do they get spread around? Why does anybody spread them around? Right.
Yeah.
And so there's a new study by William Brady, a researcher at Northwestern University, who set out to answer this question, but kind of approached it from a slightly different angle because Brady says that most research that's done in the realm of misinformation is trying to understand how misinformation gets spread. Uh, Brady says that most of the studies that exist make some key assumptions, and the big assumption being that people must want to be accurate, but something gets in the way, like they're distracted or it's a complicated topic or something like that, and that prevents them from um, being as accurate as they must want to be, right?
Interesting.
This is the
Okay.
key assumption that he says that most of the existing research makes. But
Ah.
Brady's study actually found that outrage might be the key driver in spreading misinformation, that people seem
Huh.
to be more likely to spread information when it causes outrage, sometimes without clicking through the article at all, and sometimes even when they know that it's misinformation.
Even when they know.
Yes. Right. So that was the
Wow.
finding. So it's
That's
an interesting
crazy.
study the way it was set up. Um, so so you've lately in the past couple of years we've seen a lot of attempts at stopping misinformation being
Hmm.
spread on social media. Um, Companies like Meta are aware of things that are being spread around on Facebook. Twitter's aware, or back when Twitter cared, but we won't get into that. But that 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 the ways that they tried to prevent the spread of misinformation was based on a lot of previous research, and that previous research focused on highlighting the accuracy of the information, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll go around and you'll see things on Facebook, and it'll say at the bottom whether or not it's been fact checked to be accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see that a lot nowadays, and so these approaches focus on. They might even ask you, or say, maybe before you have you ever had a post like this? You go to share something, and it says, "Oh, heads up, make sure you really want to spread. Make sure maybe you want to think about whether this is true or not before you go sharing it.
Right. Yeah. There'd be like little warnings.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of these attempts, a lot of the focus on stopping the spread of misinformation is about that, is about getting people to stop and
Right.
consider the
Right.
accuracy of whether they want to share it, and
Uh-huh.
it's based
Uh-huh.
on some of this research that's been done in the past. Brady's research, though, Brady tracked data of posted links from 2017 to 2021, so over the course of 4 years, on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, he tracked over 1 million links that were on Facebook,
Oh wow.
and on Twitter there were 45,000 tweets that were tracked, and used a machine learning model. So he checked that box that's on every grant application now. Machine learning, AI is being used to help. Machine learning model predicted how likely a post was to cause outrage. So they trained some machine learning model to be able to determine whether or not something would cause outrage. There's a whole process they went through to train it, but the short version of the story is that they trained it, and the AI model was able to accurately, as well as humans, predict whether something would generate outrage or something, moral outrage. They defined moral outrage, by the way, as a mixture of anger and disgust triggered by perceived moral transgression.
Okay.
So that's what they're considering to be outrage. Anyway, then these articles that they tracked, the over 1 million links and 45,000 tweets, they were also categorized as to whether they were considered misinformation or not. So it was determined whether or not they were likely to cause outrage, and whether they were misinformation or not. Okay, so they were
Mm-hmm.
sort of like ranked in these two domains, these two qualities. So then they took all the data and they analyzed all these tweets that were getting spread around, and they followed the clicks and all this kind of stuff. And when they analyzed the data, they looked at three things. First, do misinformation sources evoke more outrage?
Okay.
Second, was outrageous, and what I mean by outrageous is causes outrage, was outrageous news shared more often than non-outrageous news?
Okay.
And what reasons did people have for sharing the outrage content? All right.
Oh, how would they? Sorry. How would they be able to tell what reasons?
Well, they had to. I think they did interview some people, and also they
Okay.
had, even though that part of this one, they'd had two separate experiments. One experiment was this tracking links, but they also did do a more controlled one in a lab, and I'll get to that in a second. The results of the first part were unsurprising. I think at least they were to me. Misinformation evoked more outrage, and outrageous
Mm-hmm.
content was shared more often than not. All right. So if it evoked outrage, then it was
Okay.
shared more often. And that was independent of whether or not it was misinformation or not. It seemed to not matter whether it was misinformation or not. If the only predictor for whether it was getting shared was whether it produced outrage, not whether it
Mm-hmm.
was misinformation. All right. So to me, that's unsurprising.
Totally. That makes
Right.
total sense.
Yeah. So in the other experiment that they did, people were presented with news stories, some fake, some real, and in a lab setting, and they were asked to rate how outrageous the news story was. Okay. Then they were asked how likely they would be to share that story. All right. So first, how outrageous is this? How much outrage
Okay.
does it cause? How likely are you to share the story? And then half of the participants were also asked whether or not they thought it was true. And
Hmm.
then the other half, and then half of them were not. Okay. Um,
Okay.
and it turns out that the results basically were that the more outrageous a story was, the more likely they were to share it, even if they knew it was fake.
Wow.
So it seemed to not really matter a whole lot even if they knew it was fake, or whether if they thought it was fake. It's still the predictor of whether they would share it or not was whether it caused moral
Wow.
outrage.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So
I think like I think there's sort of an element of like, if this is true, everyone needs to know,
Right.
and it's horrifying. Like, I don't think it is, but like, I don't want to pass up this opportunity to make sure that you all know what horrible things are happening.
Well, maybe that's true. And in the discussion, they talked a little bit about stuff like that. There's some other things they talked about, but one thing about what you're saying is they discussed in the discussion of the paper um, that that wouldn't that you would think that the risk of being wrong that there would be a risk you were taking, right? Because you could take a reputation hit if you're spreading something that turns out to not be true, right?
I suppose that's true. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so they discussed that. They also one of the things that they think explains this, and of course this is all speculation. That's what they're doing in the discussion, right? Um, that 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 humans sort of strive to maintain status quo in groups, in cooperation in groups and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything that causes moral outrage would tend to be a focus of people's attention because it's it sort of serves as a way to signal in-group membership. It's sort of like signals a moral stance that you have, and it can be a way to drive um, to signal to those who are in your group, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so and the more moral outrage it is, the more you're sort of galvanizing your people, right? And so
Yeah, because the people that you're with on socials likely agree with you.
right.
They're they're part of your echo chamber.
Right. So that's what they're speculating. There you would have to you'd have to find some creative ways to design another experiment to look into
Mm-hmm.
that, but they're
Mm-hmm.
speculating that the reason that this type of moral outrage is is what causes is what predicts spreading misinformation is just because it's not because we're trying to convince anybody, it's because we're speaking to our people, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like we're signaling to them, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it
Interesting.
makes total sense to me because that's what social media is really good at, right?
Yeah.
Is letting us sort of preach to the choir, I guess. You could say, you know.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
So but and it serves a social purpose, whether or not certainly we could have a discussion about the harmful effects that has, but the purely, like, if you just take a step back and look at it sociologically, the benefit to that is that
Mm-hmm.
it creates bonds in a social group, right?
It strengthens your connection to a
Yeah,
group.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yep, turns out it's less important how factual something is, and just whether or not it's going to get you riled up. That's what's going to predict whether or not it spreads.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that was Logan said there are consequences to being wrong on the internet. That was one of the thoughts that I had when I was reading it. I was like, I wonder if they really believe that, or maybe they just don't actually use the internet.
Yeah.
Because
Like it's just
it was just part of their paper. They were like, one might think that that a deterrent from spreading misinformation would be the risk to your reputation if
however, everyone's got that one uncle, right?
right, right,
And his reputation's pretty bad. Like
right.
there's a person in that I know not very well, but I'll connect with other people in out in the wild and they're like, "Oh, you know that guy? Oh." And then they're like,
Oh.
"He posts some weird stuff on Facebook."
Is
I'm
there
like,
always that
"Yes,
like pause?
accurate." Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always like a little so there's it's non-zero,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's just if you physically live with some of the people that are seeing your stuff, I suppose.
Oh
It's
gosh,
not zero.
what a great topic for after Thanksgiving too, huh? Apropos.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Okie doke. We ready?
hoke doke.
All right, Bobby. Last week I promised a conclusion, an exciting conclusion to our conversation about the Drake equation.
That's right. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna figure out precisely how likely it is that we will hear from aliens.
Well, maybe not. Maybe not.
Maybe
We are talking about the Drake equation. If you didn't listen to my episode 2 weeks ago, my feature 2 weeks ago, um, you can pop back and listen, or you can stick around and we can, get sort of the Coles notes of the first half, and then we'll dig in on these last few. But basically, the Drake equation is a calculation, sort of, more of a conceptual equation that breaks down the possibility or the probability of whether there are civilizations in the Milky Way that are capable of producing signals we can detect on Earth. And in fact, it's looking for that number. How many civilizations are there?
right.
And so the variables we've looked at so far are uh, the rate at which stars capable of supporting life form in our galaxy, so star formation rate, how many of those stars have planets, how many of those planets have an environment that can support life. So we talked about those ones a couple of weeks ago, and now we're going to talk about the last four. The next one is the fraction of those planets that can support life on which life actually develops. So maybe it can support life, but maybe there's no life there. We want to keep narrowing it down to the ones where life actually develops. And then the next one is where intelligent life develops. The second last variable, the fraction of those intelligent civilizations that develop technology for communication. And then the final one, how long do those civilizations last?
Right.
Because it's a vast universe. And if you're letting out radio waves for only 100 years and then you go extinct, well, then we've got a bit of a problem on our hands. We're not going to be able 100 years is not even enough time to cross to us in most cases. Most planets are more than 100 light years away from us.
Right.
So, let's talk about the fraction of planets that can support life on which life actually develops. Can we tell this? How many planets have developed life? Now, we talked about how there's a lot of rocket launch news all the time. There's
gosh,
also, when it comes to space, there's always some new evidence for life on Mars.
Right.
We're always looking for this. We want this to be true. I think a lot of people are excited about the possibility that we're not alone in the universe. And I talked last week about how we can look for markers we'd expect, like water. That's
right.
really important. If we're looking for life as we know it, there might be life out there as we don't know it. But chemical evidence for life is a little bit different. It's not just water that is maybe creating potential, but are there chemicals produced that are only made by living things? So these are called biosignatures.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple of different chemicals we can look for on the atmospheres of other planets that will indicate that life may exist there. One of them is called dimethyl sulfide, which on Earth is produced in large quantities by microscopic ocean life. And that's kind of the only place it's produced. It doesn't spontaneously get produced by other chemical reactions. But very recently, it was able to be produced under specific lab conditions by taking a mixture of gases and exposing them to light, and I'm sure many other parameters. So we know that it technically can be produced abiotically, meaning not by a living thing. It also has been found on comets
Mm.
produced abiotically. Um,
So
but
does that mean that this is not a great um, biosignature anymore? Then, if we have reason, is this reasonable doubt? You know, like that.
for sure, for sure,
Yeah. Okay.
because we don't know what those conditions are on other planets.
That's one of the big
So
problems, right? I mean,
yeah,
I don't, is that all we know is what we know, which so you hear people say all the time that are we only have the one example of how life forms. Um, so so that that by definition sort of limits how we look for this stuff, right?
for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. And that, I mean, we also could, in our atmosphere, it doesn't form spontaneously. Can it in some other atmospheres? Can we identify those conditions? We see other chemicals mixed in. We know the type of light that's reaching it. Can we get to the point where, okay, this does have dimethyl sulfide, but we're pretty sure it's not being created by a living thing?
Right.
Um, regardless of these doubts cast on the molecule as a biosignature,
Right.
there was great excitement in 2023 when dimethyl sulfide, or DMS, was thought to be detected on a planet known
Mm,
as K218b by the
yeah.
James Webb Space Telescope. But there's another problem. That data was further reviewed and it's kind of a bit muddled because K218b has an atmosphere of mostly hydrogen. Um, and that isn't necessarily the problem, but they think that could mean it has a lot of methane in it. And DMS it's basically two methyl groups attached to a sulfur atom. And so it's
Oh,
hard to fully, we're at a great distance. We're looking at light filtering through this atmosphere. We don't always 100% have clarity on what we're looking at. It
sure.
depends on your instruments.
Right.
But the telescope is planning to use a more sensitive instrument to measure the same planet later this year,
Okay.
which may get us some answers.
Right.
There's a couple other chemicals that we'd be looking for. One is phosphine. Do you remember in 2020 when everyone was astir
Oh, I
about
do.
phosphine
I
being
do.
found on Venus?
Yes.
Yes, that was big news.
Yeah, we talked about it
Um,
on the show.
we
Yeah.
did, and in the end, it turned out that it was probably an error in how their instruments were reading it.
Yeah.
But it's a signature. And there was also talk a little bit like it could be produced without living things. And if there is life on Venus, that is definitely life as we don't know it because it's very, very hot there and a very, very different situation than what we have here on Earth.
Yeah.
A couple other ones are ammonia and oxygen. So those are produced in large quantities by life on Earth. And one of the
Mm.
really cool things about oxygen is it's very reactive. So it won't last long in an atmosphere
Right. Yeah.
unless it's constantly replenished.
Right. And so for it to be constantly replenished, you have to have
Hmm.
something on the surface of the planet
Hmm.
replenishing it in those large amounts. And that's, I mean, all that we know that does that is respiration. Uh,
Exactly.
uh,
Photosynthesis,
yes,
taking
photosynthesis.
carbon dioxide, creating energy and oxygen. Um, so that's one thing that could indicate life is doing that very process, continually producing oxygen, maybe not by photosynthesis, maybe some other way. Um,
I didn't know
but
ammonia was one though.
yeah, well, it also can react fairly quickly if not replenished, and it is produced by nitrogen fixing bacteria here on
Mm,
Earth. So you would need an atmosphere with a bunch of nitrogen in it, I imagine, or like, sufficient nitrogen, because that's not necessarily everywhere.
right.
But that nitrogen fixing allows plants to take that nitrogen and consume it, but it also, gets into the air.
Right.
And all of these things, that I've been talking about, the way that we tell whether they're there is transit spectroscopy, which I talked about last week. Basically, each gas, when light passes through it, will create a unique spectrum. So certain wavelengths will be absorbed and others will pass through.
Right.
And one thing I didn't mention last week, and something that is a little bit more available this time of year, you can actually see this happening if you get your hands on a pair of diffraction grating lenses. Have you heard of these?
Uh, I think so, but tell me more.
So it's just like a piece of plastic that has like grooves along it, very like tiny, tiny grooves. And then if
Mm.
you look through it, you'll see when light passes through it, it refracts into its component colors.
Yeah.
So if I look at something orange or I guess magenta, I would see red and blue sort of separated out.
Okay.
If I look at something white, I'll see the full spectrum.
Sure.
It kind of sits like makes a little halo around the light that you can see when you have these lenses on. And I say it's available now because there's a bunch of like Christmassy themed ones that are really fun. You can like
Oh,
see a snowflake or
then I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
that that's what those were called, but yeah,
Mhm.
my kids have some of those. Exactly what you said. You can see snowflakes or Christmas trees or something like that
Yes.
if you
And
point it. Yeah.
that's what we're doing when we observe exoplanets. We're taking that glimpse of light coming through their atmospheres and figuring out we're separating out the spectrum. And it's not just light, it could be other not just visible light rather. Could be other wavelengths as well, but we're separating those out and we can figure out what's on that planet based on what is coming through and what is being absorbed.
Right, because if light passes through um, a particular substance, a particular gas or something like that,
Yeah.
then that substance itself will absorb certain wavelengths of the light, and those wavelengths will not pass through.
Yeah.
So you will see gaps in the spectrum in those
We
places.
even we even see this on our planet in morning and night. That's why the light is different. It's a little bit more red because more blue is being absorbed by the light as it passes through, gets down low in the horizon and passes through more air to get to you.
Right, exactly.
It's the same thing's happening there. Yeah.
So you can look at that spectrum and look at where the gaps are, and it creates a signature for each different type of chemical. So, yeah.
A biosignature, you might even say.
Oh, well, some of them might be biosignatures.
So those are a couple of the things we're looking for that could indicate life. At least if there's an alien out there looking at our planet, that's what would give them a clue because that's how life formed on our planet.
And they're asking the same questions. They're saying, well, yeah, it looks like oxygen, but could that have been made by something else? I don't know. Yeah. Except they're saying it with like clicks and buzzes and hums, like. That's how
they're like directly sending their brain waves into each other's.
Yeah, or they just speak English. Wouldn't that be really weird?
Wow, that'd be so weird. That's like a multiverse whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we meet aliens and they speak English, I think we have to worry.
You know, that's verging on creepy. Yes. Something's up. Something's up there.
Yeah. Anyway, continue. So yeah, so that's we were talking about spectra and looking for certain biosignature chemicals on
That's right.
faraway planets because that's how we determine, because that we're thinking about which planets actually have developed life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we want to find that. That's the variable we're looking at. We want to know which ones have developed life. And of course, nothing's been conclusive yet.
How likely is it? What percentage of these planets left that we have? Because remember, every step of the way in this equation so far, we've been whittling down the remaining options, the remaining planets. Like, okay, now we have this many planets in our pile. Now let's get rid of all the ones that couldn't support life. Let's get rid of all. Now we have all the ones that could. Now let's get rid of all the ones that don't have life on them, and now we're just left with planets that have some sort of life on them, right?
Yes, and conceivably, this number exists.
Right.
There's billions of planets in our galaxy. We have narrowed it down. There are some of them that do have life on them.
We
We're
know it's a
we're making that
non-zero
assumption.
number because we exist.
It's
So
true.
it's a
There's at
reasonable,
least one of these.
yeah, it's, and I think most people, I don't know about most people, but I know that there's definitely plenty of scientists out there who all believe that it's a reasonable assumption to make
Hmm.
that it's more than one, you know.
Yes, yes.
So
Now I want to talk about the next two together
okay.
because the next variable is the fraction of planets with life where intelligent life develops. And then right after that, the fraction of those intelligent civilizations that develop tech for communication.
Okay. Well, I like this framing. We have a pile of planets now
Yeah.
that we've whittled it down to the planets that have life on them.
Mhm.
Now we want to whittle it down to the ones that have intelligent life, right? Is what you're
Yes.
saying? That's the next step.
Yes. But I want to do these together, intelligent life and intelligent life that develops tech for communication,
Oh, okay.
because
Okay.
there's not a ton out there for just looking for intelligent life.
Mm.
There's a couple of things you could look for, um, but we'll get into it because this, I think these are very muddled together. Like they're
Yeah.
not.
That's a good point. As I'm thinking about it, how would we detect intelligent life
Mhm.
that is not capable of communicating?
Like if aliens were observing Earth 100,000 years ago when humans were, more or less the same intelligence as they are now,
Right.
you know, variations notwithstanding, I think that they probably would not have seen any sign of that.
The only way that would happen is if we were like, if it was like Star Trek, right? Where
Yeah.
we're observing planets that have life on them, intelligent life, and we're having conversations about whether or not the Prime Directive allows us to go and
Yeah.
interact with them. Yeah, but
Well,
we're
apparently not. Isn't it like 2050 when first contact's made in
something like
Star
that. You're
Trek
right.
universe?
So we still have
Or maybe
time
it's later,
to
2080. We
so
got lots of time.
we still have time to go screw up some aliens with, and it still be considered ethical.
Okay, so this this now opened up a whole new world as I started looking into this.
Okay.
We are now talking about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or as it's known, SETI. This is a whole, like, there's a lot of people who want to know this, and a lot of people want to find other civilizations out there in the stars. And what we're looking for and listening for are technosignatures.
Okay.
So, a couple of categories: there's pollution and artificial chemicals, satellites, so artificially made objects in space,
All right.
waves used as communication, and one very specific one called a Dyson sphere.
Oh yeah. I've
Yes,
played that
we'll
game.
get into those. Yeah, that's a cool one. Um, okay, so pollution. Yeah, I feel like we're dipping our toe into something that we've already kind of looked at because if we use transit spectroscopy, maybe we can see some of these things like chlorofluorocarbons.
Mm. Yeah.
Those are the CFCs. They were famous for depleting our ozone layer,
Yeah.
still are. Um, they're an aerosol propellant. If a technology develops that, then or rather, a civilization develops that, we might be able to see that happening through their atmosphere.
Is it like there's no way that these could form naturally? Is the
I think
thing.
it's very unlikely,
Yeah.
and this would be a strong indicator
Right.
that life is
If
there
we
because
saw
a lot of these things can be formed naturally,
but
but
again, we're talking about it has to be in the atmosphere in such quantities that we
yeah,
can detect
yeah.
them through spectroscopy, you know,
Hmm.
hundreds, if not thousands, of light years away, maybe more.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, for
Exactly.
sure.
You're right. You're right. It would have to be a lot. So yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So something that they've really polluted their environment. Um, Another is tritium. So it's a byproduct of nuclear reactions.
Oh, right. Okay, I knew I'd heard that word before.
Yeah, so it's hang on, I just have to double check this because I'm pretty sure.
There's another thing that happens all the time on the show. We're in the middle of something, and then we realize I'm about to say something that might not be true.
Yeah. I was pretty sure I knew this one, but I just had to double check and I was right. Tritium is a byproduct of a recent nuclear reaction, and it's actually a hydrogen molecule, or rather, hydrogen atom with extra neutrons
So what do you
put
mean
on it.
recent? Does it not last? Tritium doesn't last very long or something? Does it
No, it
decay
doesn't. It has a
quickly?
short half life.
Okay.
So if we see tritium on a planet in enough quantity for us to see it, that means they're probably deliberately creating nuclear reactions.
And it probably hasn't been long enough for them to have destroyed themselves.
Exactly, exactly. Because that,
Because
nuclear
it
technology
has a
comes with
short
a
half
risk.
life. Yeah, has a
Yeah.
short half life, and if they had destroyed themselves, humans, look how human centric I am. If this civilization had destroyed itself, then the tritium would decay quickly,
Exactly,
and no more
exactly.
would be there. Okay,
Mhm, mhm.
that's a cool one. Oh, that would be
Um,
exciting to see
yeah,
that.
wouldn't that be neat? That one feels like kind of a smoking gun,
Yeah,
actually,
a
a little
a
bit.
smoking bomb, nuclear
Yeah.
smoking nuke.
Because that's the thing about a nuclear reaction and the oxygen, all of this stuff. If it's stable, that's when it's really interesting because you it's conceivable that nuclear reactions could be happening on some planets quite frequently for whatever geological reason. That could be. But that one that to be able to sustain it for that long is what we're really looking for. Another thing that we could possibly find is artificial light
What,
coming from
like
the
LED
planet
lights?
itself. like light pollution, like,
Oh.
a picture of the planet at night, you see
Oh,
all this
like the
light on it.
planet is producing
Mhm.
light itself.
Mhm.
Oh, I see what you mean. That would
Yeah, so that's
I
I
hadn't
don't know how
considered that.
easy that would be to spot
That
though,
would be a
because
bright planet, wouldn't
it'd be
it?
a very bright planet, right? Because you've got the star in the background. But we were talking last week about how there's ways that you can see stars. You can cover the star and then see the planet. We've actually taken photographs of planets by covering the star so it doesn't produce glare.
Right.
But you're right; it would be a very bright planet. So
Like
maybe,
Coruscant.
yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Coruscant.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, there could be some other form of pollution that could indicate that that's what's going on. But the interesting thing about that, I was thinking about what we would find first. If we could see pollution, isn't a natural assumption to then think this civilization is probably producing electromagnetic waves.
I mean, if you see tritium, like I find it hard to believe that
Yeah.
civilization would find a way to generate nuclear energy without having also invented the radio. You know?
Exactly. It doesn't, yeah, a lot of them kind of follow each other in you build on the shoulders of the generation before you in
Right,
terms
and
of
that's what I mean
invention
by
and
that, right?
scientific discovery.
Like
Yeah.
some people I guess we should dig into that a little bit because it might not be as obvious to everyone why I'm saying that because they're very different things, right? A nuclear bomb or a nuclear reactor is not the same thing as a radio or a
Yeah. Yeah.
television.
Mhm.
But the physics required to get there,
Yeah.
you don't just jump ahead to
Mm-mm.
very complicated physics like fission, you know. um,
Yeah. Yeah.
you've
Um,
got to get there first, and I feel like, and I will readily admit that this is my bias. I am biased by our science
Mhm.
history.
Mhm.
But but so of course it seems to make sense to me that you would go through,
Yeah.
understanding the electromagnetic spectrum first. But still, it does feel like you have to understand that, because how did we? And again, okay, and this will be the last time I say it. I do admit, and I do recognize that yes, all I know is how we discovered these things.
Mhm.
But the way we discovered these types of things, learning about nuclear fission and fusion, we had to probe and observe atoms. And in order to do that, we had to understand the electromagnetic spectrum, which allowed us to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
I think too, technological changes and advances are limited by what you can physically make,
right,
and it's physically a lot easier to create a radio than it is to create a nuclear reactor.
right.
So, though, like, there's a lot of other things that have to come along at the same time, that you need to discover it. So I think there is sort of a logical progression here, and of course it could, like you say, go out of order. But the other things we could be looking for are actual objects in space.
Oh,
So
well, I mean, that'd be good.
satellites,
Yeah.
right? That would be really interesting. Space stations, maybe. The interesting thing about a satellite or a space station is that they're actually really close to the Earth in our situation. They're really close when you're talking cosmic space.
Right.
It would have to be a pretty big one for us to see it, like a
Yeah.
Death Star sized one, maybe not quite Death Star sized, but it would
Yeah.
have to be really, really huge.
Something that's no
Um,
moon. We'd have to.
exactly.
We'd have to. Sorry, that was a bad joke.
There's so many Star Wars connections in this one.
Yeah.
We've already made a couple references. Sorry if you've never seen it.
But that
Um,
would. You're right. If we discovered and we could say that that was a structure that was
mhm,
built
mhm.
in space around a planet, it would be really hard to
Yeah,
deny that there was
yeah,
intelligent life.
yeah. Uh
Like
huh.
that's your smoking gun. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah, that's for sure. For sure. Um, the other thing I mentioned is Dyson spheres. So there's this concept called the Dyson sphere that basically is a mega structure, a giant structure that completely absorbs the energy from a star.
Yeah, the scientist, I think it was a scientist, Freeman Dyson was
Yes, I think that was his name, Dyson.
yeah.
Um, and so basically, it's sometimes pictured as a bunch of like sort of separate satellites orbiting a star, and they're absorbing its energy and transmitting it back to whatever civilization
Right.
wants
Right.
is using it, right? Um, so the idea of that is really cool. It's really interesting. It would be super helpful if you could do that, but it's conceptual. It's something that we can't build, at least not. You'd have to be a very technologically advanced civilization to be able to do it,
Oh yeah, massively advanced.
like
Some
far more than us.
yeah. Yes, a lot more because well, for
Yes.
a lot of reasons. The Dyson sphere itself could be a feature of its own, but just talking about
Yeah, it's really
the
cool.
science and physics and theoretical ideas around it. But yeah. Yeah, if we found a Dyson sphere
Hmm.
somewhere. In fact, there was one time I don't remember what came of it, but there was a news story one time about some signal or some light from a star that was in such a it was strange the way it was blocked
Mm,
or clouded or something like
okay.
that, and some people did speculate
Really?
that it could. I think nobody was seriously speculating. Some people maybe were,
Mm, mm.
but it was like listed amongst the things that, well, if there was a Dyson sphere around this star, it would cause this data that we have.
Yeah,
That's one
yeah.
of the things. But because a Dyson sphere, like you said, it would be like, at least at the very least, it would be a swarm of objects around
Hmm. Hmm.
a star, and it would dim the star, and that's how he would detect it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Um, space elevators. I don't know if we could see those very easily, but maybe we could,
yeah,
depending how far away the star was and what we were looking at. They're so huge and they have to um we did a feature on that. Basically, you have to extend it out into space and have a counterweight at the end. So probably not easy to see, but maybe we could detect something like that. And I mean, there's other stuff we've never thought of. Like there could be artificial structures just floating out in space that we have never conceived of. That we are able to track down and we can see based on what they're made of, how they reflect light, all of that kind of thing.
yeah.
We're gonna see something a little bit different. Um, so those things they're pretty direct in terms of observation.
Yeah.
So we can look at it and see these things, hopefully, is the idea. But the big one that people have been listening for quite some time is electromagnetic waves.
That's the one that seems to be like the most likely thing. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I shouldn't
Well,
say
I
most
feel
likely.
like it was definitely the most likely prior to the James Webb, because James
Yeah.
Webb is able to see things at a resolution that was unheard of before,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah. But before
so
before
much of
before we get ahead of ourselves, I guess, because this is a good thing to talk about after you explain the electromagnetic waves thing,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
is which ones we think would be most likely for us to see. But yeah, so explain about
About
electromagnetic
the
waves.
waves.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first radio signals in on Earth were emitted in the 1890s.
Yeah.
And those radio signals spread outward. You can imagine it like a drop in a pool of water. It spreads outward.
Right, and it's weird to think about because it is spreading through space, right?
Yes, it's still going. Those first radio waves are still out in space somewhere,
Right.
spreading through our galaxy.
And the reason I say it's weird
135
to think
years
about is
later.
because we think about it as being like a point to point sort of thing, or
Hmm.
just as something that we are picking up on Earth, but these radio waves are not being sent like directly to the devices. They're
No,
they're just willy-nilly being spread in a sphere around the antenna that's shooting the signal out, right? Like
exactly,
shooting it in
exactly.
every direction, and we just have something that's an antenna that's capable of picking up the signal and interpreting
Exactly.
it,
Hmm.
right? But some of that signal got sent around the earth straight out
Hmm.
along the horizon in every direction, but most of it got shot out into space.
Straight into space,
Yeah.
yeah. And when you artificially create electromagnetic waves in or even non-artificially, but they will lose signal like after if they're traveling through a medium or they're getting interrupted by big buildings or big whatever, like they will lose signal. That's why if you're too far away from a cell phone tower, you don't have reception. Um but because it's emitting all of these waves and your phone is getting either a strong or a weak signal.
Right.
Now,
I want to make a
um
clarifying point real fast because
yeah.
somebody in the chat brought it up. We don't normally bring up the chat when we're doing our live shows, but it was an important question. Barry said radio or TV, and I wanted to to bring it to sort of make the point that when we say radio waves are just a band of the electromagnetic spectrum, and
Right,
so
yes.
television that is broadcast over the air still broadcasts over radio waves.
Mhm.
So radio, like the radio in your car, and television both use radio waves. So
Yeah,
yeah,
old school television.
yeah,
um and your phone uses microwaves.
yeah. So those are different. Yeah,
Yeah. um so there's actually, let me start this again. So if the radio waves that were produced in 1890s are still out there and there is somebody listening 135 light years away, they can hear them. they would have been able to hear them if they were listening.
Right.
And if they keep listening at the right frequencies, if they're able to capture all the radio waves we produce over, in that 135-year lag, they're going to hear the whole tale of our entire world. This is difficult to do, though, because it takes huge arrays of instruments to be able to listen
Mm.
effectively, because as they go out too, they also spread out.
Right. So the signal would
You're
be attenuated. It would be weak.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Um, and also, like, we don't know their frequency. We don't know what signals they're broadcasting. How can we tell? There's waves all being passed throughout the universe constantly,
Right.
but how can we tell what another civilization is trying to say when we're listening for these waves? Um, but we
Oh
have
yeah.
been
Not to
listening.
mention that it's mixed up with other radio waves, because
Mhm,
just stuff in the universe, stars and everything,
mm,
they also,
mhm.
black holes, they also emit waves on microwave and radio
Yeah,
wave
yeah.
frequencies as well. So we'd have to disentangle that from the just general noise of the universe as well.
We have to look for the ones that are generating meaning,
Right.
ones that have patterns that we we did. We were able to figure out how to pulse them to create different types of waves and send communication and interpret it. So our problem would be the interpretation. Maybe they create radio waves or whatever else they are doing in very different ways.
Right.
Now, we've been listening for this since the 1920s. Um, there was this period of time in the 20s. People were like, well, let's listen for radio waves coming from Mars. And they had a radio silence time. So radio stations in the area just stopped broadcasting for a little while, which is so interesting to me because that would be impossible to do now. Like, you just have to
Yeah.
accept the background noise of the waves that are going everywhere. But anyway, so they paused the broadcasts and they listened. They pointed at Mars and they listened for radio signals in the
Wow.
1920s. Yeah, yeah, and of course they didn't hear anything. And so since then, there have been gradually, progressively larger and more elaborate ways of listening to see if we can hear civilizations. And there's one of the things I was thinking about um, when I was looking into this is, I don't know if you ever watched Futurama.
Mm-hmm.
There's an episode where this alien civilization comes to Earth and they threaten to destroy Earth if they don't get a satisfying finale to 1,000-year-old TV show that was canceled. I think it's called like Single White Lawyer or something, or Single Lady Lawyer. It's really funny. And so the whole plot is them trying to recreate this show, and it's hilarious.
That's very
But
funny.
yeah, but that that could be happening. Not
Right.
on that scale, but you could have people out there watching our TV shows, or at least snippets of it. You probably wouldn't get the exact right timing on every show, but you'd probably see it in like blips and clips, right?
I love this idea that everyone just, nobody knew about Mars. Nobody,
Yeah.
like, we hadn't been sent anything there yet. We knew it was there. We just, that's all we knew.
Mhm.
And I love this idea, it's so like optimistic. Like, okay, everybody just convince everybody to just turn off the radio for a minute. Stop sending any
Yeah.
signals just so we can listen, because
Yeah.
because wouldn't we hate it if we just never did, and it was
Mhm.
something was coming, like it was such an optimistic idea. And I think we laugh, not we, I don't, but I know a lot of people laugh at the idea of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence now.
Mhm.
SETI, the organization that is looking for signals of life in the universe somewhere, it's kind of like almost a joke. I think a lot of people think of it as like what's the point? Who cares? But they that search still has at its root that same optimism. You know, like
Mhm. Mhm.
like if we don't try, we definitely won't know.
That's the thing. If we never look, of course we'll never find them.
Right.
There's no way to know, and wouldn't that be tragic if we were not alone in the universe and we spent the whole time by ourselves
Yeah.
without trying to at least know
Right.
whether or not that was the case. And there's a lot of different thoughts about what's out there, and how we can conceptualize whether um, intelligent life exists. And the Drake equation is just one of them. There's also the Fermi paradox. Have you heard of this?
Um, I have heard of it, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. I think it's. I think you probably have it more
Yeah,
on the front of
yeah.
your mind. So go ahead.
It's basically saying it's too quiet. Why is it so quiet? How could we have missed if somebody was out there? But I think out there is just so vast
Right.
that how can we, of course we miss them. We can't look at, we can't sift through this many stars. Like we It just makes sense that we can't connect with them unless we are actively looking for them.
Right. Exactly.
But that also brings me to the last variable, and that is the average lifetime of civilizations that develop technology for communication. What if tomorrow we heard the very first radio signals of a civilization? How much time would we have?
Mm-hmm.
Would they be going for another 135 years? 2,000? A million? We have no idea.
Right.
And what if this has already happened? What if we already were in the path of electromagnetic communication that we couldn't detect, that happened 50,000 years ago? And now that civilization is extinct. They are no longer producing those waves.
Right.
There's there's a 10 billion lifespan of these stars, these planets, everything that we know in the Milky Way, probably shorter than that, but billions of years. There We have to get it at exactly the right time. It's kind of like winning the lottery.
Right.
And it's
Because
so
it's worse than that. Um, it's worse than just because not only the way I visualize it in my head is you've got this theoretical planet that has life on it, right? And so it
Mhm.
starts producing waves, electromagnetic waves, let's say.
Sorry. Oh god.
You okay there?
I'm just gonna.
You all tuned in at the right time to watch Mora's last breath. Or the wrong time. That's what I think is the wrong time.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
we should have. I was worried about your stroke. You weren't worried about my choking. I just
Mm,
like the water just like hit the wrong spot.
yeah, I hate it when that happens.
Please go on. Excuse me.
So I like to visualize like a planet that is producing radio waves. They start producing radio waves, and then we zoom all the
Mhm.
way out, and we can see those radio waves coming out, right? Like
Right.
it's this circle that's being produced, and it's extending outward, and it's
Mhm.
filling the space with these radio waves. And then after a certain amount of time, let's say 1,000 years, it stops producing radio waves. So
Mhm.
now that you've got this like circle of radio waves slowly growing away from the planet.
Mhm.
The outer edge of this ring is when it started, and the inner edge is when it stopped. Okay,
Mhm.
and so it's growing and growing and growing. Every time that ring passes over some other planet, that's an opportunity for that planet to detect that
Yeah.
other planet.
Mhm.
But it has to pass over another planet at the same time that it has life that can detect it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So like it's exceedingly rare that that would happen. Um,
Mhm.
Made more likely if it's producing those signals for a longer time, right? But we have only been producing these signals for
135 years.
yeah, and I just said
It's
1,000
not
years.
enough.
Like we're
Yeah.
we're far away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not likely that and when I say like capable of detecting it, not just capable of detecting it, but capable of detecting it and recognizing that it is a signal from another
Yep.
planet,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
we just got done talking about how who knows, we might be getting signals from other planets right now. We just can't tell.
We're not detecting the right wavelength, or we're not
Able to parse
able
it
to parse it
from
out. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um and it's so funny because today this article dropped in my inbox from Scientific American, the title of which was "Why We Probably Won't Find Aliens Anytime Soon." And basically just what you said, it's too far away, and the likelihood of us hitting that exact right time with the exact right satellite is just so low.
Yeah,
But when you go back and think about all these variables and think about what we found out about exoplanets, it seems far more likely that life is out there, and that intelligent life, if that's, which is difficult to define, but intelligent life that could create technology like this must be out there somewhere. Even if there's just a handful, even if they're on the other side of the galaxy, and we will never communicate with and never find them. And that's just the Milky Way. There's a bunch of other galaxies where this must have happened,
sure, yeah.
which would be even harder to detect. But one of the things I always think about is that if that civilization exists, and it must somewhere in the universe, maybe there's somebody, some other creature thinking about us right now. And they just know that we're there because we know they're there. We don't know anything about them, what they look like, how they exist, what their physical form is like, but we know they're there somewhere. And I have this like feeling of connection to these alien civilizations that I genuinely think must exist, knowing that they probably are thinking that we also exist. And that I don't know. It's not like it's not comforting, but it's just cool
Yeah.
to think that. Maybe it is comforting a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just to know it's not just us. There's someone out there, and we can just know that. It would be great to hear them, to find them, but I don't even if we never do, it's very cool.
Just pausing so that I know that that's the moment I'm ending on. There's a thought I
I
had.
don't think thank that is a crazy thought, right? I don't think I articulated it very well, but I always think about that.
You articulated it just fine. It moved me.
Maybe my one true love is an alien tweep. Aw. Also, just maybe bring that up with your therapist. I'm just saying, not you're allowed to believe that, but it
Yeah,
might be something you
it
want
might. You
you want
might
to
want to
broach.
unpack that a little bit. Did you ever watch American Tail? You just made me think of that movie.
No,
Fievel. Um, you don't
vaguely, yeah. Oh yes, I know the thing you're referencing. You've told
the
me about this
song
before, but I've
"Somewhere
never
Out
seen it.
There."
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhere out there. Yeah, they're separated, but they're imagining that they're looking at the same star in the night sky. That's what the whole song's about. That's what you made me think of when you said
Yeah,
that.
yeah, totally. That's the thought.
Yeah,
It's just there has to be someone out there thinking about us.
yeah. I bet there's way more than just someone. I bet there's a lot of someones.
Yeah, multiple someones.
Yeah. Sounds like a Jerry Springer episode. My one true love is an alien. I will take that a step further, Logan. I bet that has been a Jerry Springer episode, or at least a Geraldo episode.
Tweep, that's the only chance I got. I don't know. I've seen your very cool tattoos.
Yeah, man.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah. We should get a blue sky.
Say... What's that?
Someone mentioned blue sky earlier. We probably need to do that.
What is that?
Blue Sky. You know, the social media net. Blue
Okay.
Sky.
Yes. I have heard of it. Is that in reference to the aliens?
No, I saw a Blue Sky notification on my phone, and I remembered someone mentioned it back when I was doing my news thing about social media. Mora's old, everyone. She doesn't know about social media.
I really don't.
The hip
it's funny because
Blue Sky.
I was like everybody, right? I was on Facebook 2006. Oh yeah, so cool. Awesome. Let's go. Went on Twitter, went on Insta. Man. And then it was like, yeah, early days. 2007? I can't remember. I think it was 06. And I
don't know. I might have been on it a little bit earlier because I was in the US and in college in the US.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I was
but like I was like everybody, I was into it, and then it's just I don't know, it just took a nosedive the last like 3-4 years. I don't know about Blue Sky, but everything just is terrible in social media now. Like,
well, there's a
it's
big
just constantly awful.
There's been in the past month or so a very big exodus from X to Blue Sky.
In the last month?
Yeah, it's very recent. I mean, it's slowly been moving. Blue Sky's been around for a little while. But in the past month or so, I've seen tons of people like making a concerted effort to be like, okay, I'm moving over here. They've created this way of like curating lists of followers, so you can get on there and you can click on these like lists that people put together, and you can just like a community can put together a big list of people that are all that you all want to follow, and you can just post these lists and be like, oh, I'm into all of this whole community of people. Let me just follow everyone on this list. Anyway, there's just been a lot of effort for people to move to Blue Sky. So
you showed it to me.
I don't think so.
That's I'm remembering. I'm pretty sure you showed me Blue Sky.
I didn't. I'm sure I did not.
Oh gosh, I must be thinking of something else.
Yeah.
There's a social media platform where you have to check it within 2 minutes of getting a notification.
Oh, it's
gone.
You're thinking, oh, you have to check it or it's gone. So I've shown you Be Real, if that's what you're talking about.
That's the one I was thinking.
And it's not that you have to check it in 2 minutes. It's that you have to. There's a whole system of getting a notification, and you take a picture and post it in 2 minutes. And Be Real's fun and cool. I like Be Real. So. But that's not something our podcast can do. That's not really.
This looks exactly like Twitter.
Yeah, they're trying to be their whole thing is they're trying to be a Twitter replacement. Yeah. So it's easy to make a. I've been on there, and I've left X pretty much altogether.
It is like X is like a wasteland, man. Like, yeah. I went on there a couple times.
It's
here and there,
yeah.
And it's just every other comment. I'm like, what is even happening here? Yeah. This place is crazy. It is. Yeah.
Snapchat.
It's dark. It's dark in there. Snapchat. Nexopia. Did anybody have Nexopia?
I have never even heard of that.
Yeah, that one was like for like 4 minutes. I was like a little too old because it was like the high schoolers when I was just out of high school. It was the high schoolers that were all using it for like literally one single year. And it's just like, it was like MySpace. You just had a page and you posted photos of things.
Are you sure this wasn't just like only people in Alberta were were
I
using
think
this.
that's very unlikely. I wonder if it still exists. Like MapQuest. Remember when we looked up
Oh my gosh, yeah.
MapQuest?
Oh
So
yeah, and we
funny.
found out they're owned by like
Yeah, like something
some
really
like
shady.
some real shady company that's just trying to sell ad space or something.
Nexopia.com is a unique forum and community where users can create unfiltered content,
Oh, that sounds
say
shady.
whatever they want.
That sounds like they're
Oh no, it was Canadian.
I told you.
It was Canadian. There we go.
Yep, unfiltered content.
Unfiltered content.
That sounds like
Founded in 2003.
sounds like a dog whistle if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, that's people can say whatever they want. That doesn't sound right. Criticized by parent groups who blame their children's problems on the website and tried to have it shut down. That sounds familiar. Oh, target for online predators. Oh, yay. Tale as old as time, I guess.
Yep. It'll happen to Blue Sky one day, I'm sure.
Oh, man. Well, that's the Wild West of social media, right? 2003? Dang. There's like, people know
yeah,
world is people know how to control for it. Obviously not completely. There's still going to be all those horrible things, but like
oh,
there's
that
much
really was
better
because that
ways.
was still
Oh, yeah.
2003 was before Facebook. Really, that was MySpace time.
Friendster.
Ugh.
Was that Canadian too?
No. I've definitely heard of Friendster. I was never on Friendster. I had a U-journal.
Oh, nice.
And a live journal. I think they
I
were
was on
basically
Blogspot.
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 What a terrible name.
It really is. The word blog is
Blogspot
just bad.
sounds like they came up with that name but never said it out loud. Like they never tested how it would feel in your mouth when you said it.
Oh my gosh. Hilarious.
Yeah, Blogspot. Blogs. Do blogs still exist?
Yeah, they do. They do. Although they're more like newsletters now.
Yeah, or what's the thing that we briefly considered doing and then realized how much work it would be?
Right.
It was like a newsletter, but it was a specific platform. Substack. We were talking about that for a little while.
But Substack has its own problems. I don't know. I feel like if you just make a podcast and put it out there, then people can just listen to it or not.
Yeah, it's the best you can do.
If you have to like talk to like interact with people on social media,
interacting with people.
A
terrible.
Different
hello, live
scenario.
chat room.
Oh, hello. Oh, crap. But it's not the people. It's just putting it out there and laying it all out for anyone to consume. That's the part that's so challenging to me. That literally anyone could come along and just be like, "You suck," or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, Substack is. I was on it for a minute. There was some cool stuff, but it's not great. Yeah. Social media for people who don't like interacting with people. That's so true. So true. I love interacting with people though. And I agree, Logan. I would love to just meet people and sit down for a cup of tea. I'm a fan. Yeah. I'm an extrovert.
Yeah.
But there was something I was gonna say about moral outrage.
You think about that while I think about there was something I should have written it down that I was gonna say in the end banter and vamping in our show. Can't remember now. God. That's why you should jot notes down, everyone.
Yeah. I've forgotten mine too.
Don't
it also was something I think would have been appropriate in the moment, and now it's gone.
We were talking. Hold on, I gotta remember.
I have something if you can't think of it.
Okay, let me try though. It lost me. It was good, Maura.
I'm sure it was great.
It was so good.
That sounded sarcastic, but I meant it. I'm sure it was great.
It was so good. It's so much better than whatever it is that you're gonna say.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's how it is.
Sorry, when I'm frustrated, I
Well,
lash out.
apparently. Apparently.
All right, you
All
ready?
right. Mhm.
All right, I guess you're leading us off.
Let's go. Do you think somewhere out there are two aliens making the alien equivalent of a podcast about the alien equivalent of science? Talking about
I hope so.
finding intelligence.
I hope so. And I'm going to peel back the curtain just a little bit because this is great. This is incredible. The question you just asked me. So when we
Uh-huh.
were on break between the segment from when we just talked to now, I had just said, "Oh, there was something really good I was going to say, Maura, and I can't remember what it is." And I gave up, and you just made me remember it
You're
because
welcome.
because have you heard this theory about the universe being, if the universe is infinite,
Mhm.
um which there's no, like, it's, who knows, it might be that the universe
Sure.
is infinite,
Okay.
that means necessarily that there must be an exact duplicate of the planet Earth out there with the exact same people on it, and that there would be a Mora and a Bobby podcasting on this planet. Have you heard this theory before, that about, like,
Not the exact duplicate. I thought, but I guess that makes sense. And if it's infinite, wouldn't there also be infinite duplicates?
yes, there would technically be infinite Mora science podcasting Moras and Bobbies. um, because
Wow.
the idea being, so if anybody isn't naturally latching onto this, the idea being, if the universe is infinite, that means there's an infinite amount of stuff out there, and there is only a finite, technically, as vast as that finite is, there's technically only a finite number of ways that you can configure matter, right? Like,
Hmm.
matter can only take so many forms. The number of different ways you can put pieces of matter together is admittedly quite vast and large. um, like,
Conceptually, it's infinite, but in reality, it's finite.
in
But if
reality, there's
the
only a certain number of ways you can organize atoms and molecules. So theoretically, there would be, eventually, in an infinite universe, you would run out of the ways that you can do it, and you would have to repeat. And so you would have another Earth out there, and on one of the, you would have many infinite numbers of Earth, and then on one of those Earths, you would have a Bobby and a Mora podcasting.
but then there would also be infinite podcasts where my name was Laura and your name was Chris,
Mm. I don't know.
right?
Let's
Like
destroy
every
that
right.
planet.
Yeah, like it's just every little thing could change.
Oh,
Maybe there's another one.
one of them, your name was Moira, right?
Mm, yeah.
Instead of Mora.
And one of them Venus is 0.01% smaller. Like there's just so many
Yeah,
variables. You could just that's crazy. That
yeah.
well, Futurama did that as well, actually. They got to the end of the universe and saw the other the parallel universe where they were like had different color hair,
Oh, yeah,
different outfits.
yeah. Well, this one's to the other podcasters out there that are podcasting about the same thing on other planets. We hope our radio signals cross one day. Isn't that a funny thought, that this podcast would actually go out on a radio? Oh, what about that thought? That's depressing. That,
Where do all the podcasts go?
yeah, podcasts don't get sent out on radio, unless they do get sent out on radios. But most podcasts are
Okay,
just,
yeah, but they go through cell signals. Like you can,
that's true. They get broadcast on microwaves. You're right.
yeah.
So, oh, you're
And in
right.
fact, they
Okay.
probably are in a like a more condensed, package.
Yeah,
So
you're
they are probably
okay.
more likely to enter to be fully heard.
All right, you've made me feel better. Thank you. Our
Where do
podcast
all the
is being
podcasts
broadcast out into
go?
the
It
universe.
is. That's right.
223
episodes.
episodes and going.
Let's go.
All right. Well, this is the end of that 223rd episode, and that's going to be it for this one and All Around Science. Thank you all for listening, especially our extraterrestrial listeners. If you've got questions, well, I don't know what the extraterrestrials are going to do if they have questions, but our terrestrial listeners, if you've got questions or any feedback, you can email us at contact@allaroundscience.com.
We are on socials at All Around Sci or All Around Science.
My name's Bobby,
I'm Maura.
and we'll see you next week for some more science stuff.
I was going to talk about blue sky and the socials thing, but we didn't. That was the,
Yeah. What were you going to say? We will one day be on Blue Sky.
like, are we on blue sky? I don't think we're on blue sky.
No.
Let's get off Twitter and go on blue sky.
We need to go ahead and do it so that we can maybe get All Around Science
Good.
instead of just All Around Sci.
That'd be awesome. What are we doing? What did I talk about?
What did we talk about?
Once again. All right.
Right.
On today's episode,
It turns out that it really doesn't matter whether it's true or not. Your uncle is still going to share that weird article that he found.
and we once again explore the Drake equation. Could intelligent life be out there?
All that and more today on All Around Science.
Okie dokie. Work, everyone.
Okie dokie.
I'm going to go see my family now.
What?
Yeah. Imagine that.
What time do your children go to bed?
My little one's already in bed, but the older one will be heading there soon.
I guess it's only just after 8.
Yeah. Plus, I get to eat dinner. I hope there's some cold leftover chicken.
Wow. You're the only person I've ever heard.
I know, it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Oh, thanks, Barry. Yeah, I have like very basic tastes in some ways, but some things are weird. Like I don't like pepper. I like
You
cooked
don't like
chicken.
pepper? Like
Don't like pepper.
like black pepper.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or white pepper even.
I don't think I've ever
just
had
like
white
pepper.
pepper actually.
It tastes the same. Just
Oh.
can't see it. I get used to it. It's not like a hate. I just like
You just
would
prefer
rather there's
not.
no pepper.
Yeah, which
Yeah, just don't
I'm
put
the
it in.
opposite. I like pepper on things.
Yeah. Nope, never liked it. Tastes like spicy dirt. Just not for
Do you
me.
not like earthy flavors in general?
No, I don't mind them.
Like mushrooms? Do you like mushrooms?
Yeah, I like mushrooms.
Oh, I don't like mushrooms.
Like
Well,
onions,
Onions not really.
root vegetables
I
generally.
wouldn't call
No, I guess
onions
it's
an
not
earthy
earthy.
flavor.
I like jalapenos. I like jalapenos a lot.
Ooh,
And most
yeah.
peppers, like
Like chili peppers.
chili peppers, I enjoy. You know, I have a lower heat tolerance, but I enjoy chili peppers because they have good flavor. And pepper just is hot without flavor. That's what it tastes like to me. Like
Mm.
it doesn't, to me, it doesn't add anything.
Yeah, I like the flavor though, and I don't think it's that spicy. So,
Yeah, it's not spicy. It's very mild, but it's, yeah. I
but
just
still,
like
if you don't like or don't really notice the flavor, then all you would notice is what spice does exist. So,
it's fine. I won't refuse something if it has pepper in it because then I'd refuse like 90% of food. So.
yeah, I mean, you cook with salt and pepper, like that's just the thing you cook with, right? Like,
I know, and I don't get it. I've never understood. Oh, I should share this website where you can be a misinformation person.
I don't think I speaking of flavors and foods and stuff that people don't like, I've always hated olives, but on this last cruise that I went on, there was a food tasting experience that we had, and they gave us olives, and I really liked them.
Wow, that's interesting. Maybe your tastes are changing.
Well, I think it was like the context and the way they were being fed, and also I think what people have been telling me all my life, that different olives taste different, like that they're very different, and I think I just wasn't eating them the right way. uh
That can matter. Yeah, context and yeah, totally.
I think I was always just eating them like on things that I like to taste a certain way. And so like I don't want olives on my pizza. I know what I like in pizza, and olives don't. Even though I like those olives, I don't want them on the pizza.
Fair, fair.
I don't know.
All right, well, I'm gonna go eat dinner.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody,
talking about food again.
for
You need to go eat
hanging out. Yeah, and then I looked at Barry's Friendsgiving photos,
more food.
and
There,
I was
yeah.
like, so I am getting out of here to
All
go
right,
eat
thank you,
dinner.
chat,
Say
for
goodnight
hanging
to my
out with us
kiddos.
as usual. We love having you all around.
Yes, it's so great to see you all.
And we'll see you next month, if not sooner. Bye bye.
Bye.